All right, Dr. Brian Parr is with us today, and as always, we're talking health and fitness. And last week, we talked about BMI. Now, after reading the column today and the reference to obesity and children being obese, I actually went on the internet and got the definition from Wiki Encyclopedia of what is obese. And the definition said that it was your weight in kilograms divided by your height squared, or something like that. You end up with 30 kilograms by m squared, whatever that is. And I said, how am I supposed to figure that out? And James came in and said, just put in BMI calculator.
That's right.
So I did that. I brought up the BMI calculator, and you put in your height and your weight, and it will figure it out.
Yeah.
And much to my chagrin, I was overweight and on the precipice of going over to obese, which is like, what?
Yeah.
Come on.
Did you blame the calculator?
I said the calculator was wrong.
Yeah.
And now, so, and that's easy enough. And it's for adults, right? That little calculation thing, because it's different in children.
The calculation is the same. The classification is a little different. So in adults, if you have a BMI that's about 19 to up to 25, that's considered normal weight. And then 25 up to 30 is considered overweight, and then 30 and higher is considered obese. In children, they use body mass index, but they do it in a slightly different way for those classifications.
Now, it was interesting. Then I just started plugging in numbers going, well, where will I get to be normal? So it basically said I had to get down to 180 pounds for a 6-foot tall man.
Yeah.
I guess does it work for men and women?
It's the same thing, yeah.
It's the same.
Yep.
Okay, so a 6-foot tall person at 180 pounds would just get into the normal range.
Yeah.
So I went, well, 140 pounds was on the low end.
Yeah.
So it's really a wide range.
It is a wide range.
You can fall into, and if I weighed 140 pounds, my God.
Right. So that isn't realistic for you. Getting to the low end of that range is not something that's realistic for you.
I'd have to be sick or something.
But
and not eat cheeseburgers.
But as we were discussing earlier, 15 to 20 pounds for a lot of people is enough to move them from the overweight category into the normal category, and that is realistic and achievable. The other thing too is that that's just a classification of your body weight, height relative to weight. It doesn't tell, like we discussed last week, whether that weight is muscle or fat. So you have to take a good look at yourself and make that assessment.
Well, and you said by measuring your
waist circumference,
waistline, yes,
can do that. Can let you know. You can also just hop out of the shower and take a look in the mirror, and that should, for most people, give a pretty good indication, right?
Well, it's always fun to hop out of the shower. Hey. Is that something you do often?
Well, no, but my point is that I think most people could tell, like if someone calculated their BMI and found out that they were considered overweight, I think that most people could probably make a pretty good assessment of whether that overweight is because it's excess muscle or excess fat. And I think most people, whether they want to admit it or not is a different thing, can at least say, okay, I need to lose a little weight. And what they mean by that is not I need to lose muscle, but I need to lose some fat. And so while the BMI is the thing that makes you kind of do that next step assessment, you have to keep in mind that it isn't the answer to everything. And even if you got your BMI into the normal category, so you went on some crazy diet and lost some weight and got down there, but you didn't exercise, there's no reason to think that you're suddenly healthier. Yeah. Right? I mean, you've lowered your body weight, and that's good, and you've lost some fat, and that's good. But in the absence of exercise, the BMI doesn't mean so much.
Well, and it doesn't have to be running or lifting weights necessarily. Just walking, doing something to get blood pumping.
Yeah.
Yard work is a great one.
Anything that involves movement. I tell people even if you're cleaning your house and you're doing it like you're on a mission to get it done, that counts.
Well, going back to children, and children, same thing applies. If you're an adult, if you're the parent, you can tell how much exercise are they getting. How do you go about encouraging them to get out?
Yeah. Well, you can't just send your kids out and be like, go for a run and come back for dinner time. So a lot of it is making plans for the family that involve activity.
Right.
So leisure time activities that people can do that involve moving. Right.
Right.
And taking young kids to the playground is a perfect example, because you put a kid at a playground, they're going to run around and play, and that's a perfect opportunity. Perfect opportunity.
In terms of getting them out, getting physical activity,
That's
and
right.
obviously high intake of carbohydrates is going to lead to some problems.
Added sugars is the key. And if you look at, like I said before, a lot of kids' food, it's added sugar. The most popular cereals that kids like to eat, the ones that are advertised most on TV,
Are the best.
the second ingredient is sugar. And that's a real issue. And the fact that so many children's foods have added sugar means that even fruit-flavored foods, those little chewy fruit snacks that are so delicious, kids might eat those and think that that's what fruit is supposed to taste like.
And that's
and so they think that little orange candy is what oranges taste like. And you give that kid a real orange, and they're going to say, no, I don't like that, right?
Yeah.
So now we've got this problem that you're shifting their food preference away from healthy foods, right? And so the problem, you look at that and you think, well, now you're kind of messing up them developing a healthy diet down the road if a lot of foods they don't like because they're not sweet enough. And that's, I think it's a huge problem.
But it can even go further than that. If all you eat is a huge bowl of macaroni and cheese, pastas, that is going to translate into sugar. The cheese, not necessarily, but that's going to cause. If that's the diet that you have to have it balanced.
So, right, you need to have a balanced diet. You need to have a mix of fats and proteins and carbohydrates. And if someone is eating a well-balanced diet, and they're active on a daily basis, their bodies can handle all those carbohydrates and all those sugars. The problem comes in where you shift it away from a healthy diet and you factor in that inactivity.
And basically, if you believe what happened with Jared, that all you need to do is go to the Subway and eat Subway.
Well, I mean, if you look at this is someone who probably needed 4,000 calories or more a day to maintain his body weight. I mean, he was very big. And then cut himself back to 1,500 calories a day through his Subway diet and through walking, because he started walking a lot. Well, he's going to lose a lot of weight. It doesn't matter where he got his food from. He could have got it from any place. He could have cooked it at home, and the same thing would have happened. What worked is he found a way to limit what he ate, right? Because he would order it and he would eat it. If he was making it at home, he might have made extra, or he could have, right? So that worked for him. That's not to say that it's magic, but what it did is it helped him create this imbalance where he could lose weight.
And I've found this to be true, that if you cut back on what you eat, it's very difficult at first, but once you get it established and take a week to get through it and to exercise a little bit, you'll want less and less.
That's true.
You don't need it, but like you're saying, once you're at a 4,000, 5,000 calorie meal per day average, that's your habit. You're in a habit. You're going to have to break that habit, and it's going to take more than one day.
Oh, it's going to take, and it took him a long time to do that. And it's not about the total number of calories. If you remember the last Summer Olympics, there was a lot of talk about how many calories the swimmers ate each day, and there's 8,000 or 10,000 calories a day. Well, they're doing vigorous exercise for 6 hours every day. They need that much energy. If you or I ate 10,000 calories a day, we'd be in a lot of trouble.
I wouldn't fit in this chair.
No way.
But it's interesting, and we do have it always come down to the fact of eat right, exercise, and it really gets back to that. But it's easy to say and easy not to do.
That's right. And the problem is that it's hard to change habits.
Sure.
It's really hard to change habits, and especially with physical activity. It's easy to do what you're used to doing, and it's hard to change that. It takes time, and you have to change your plans. On the nutrition side, I'm very forgiving for people who say, I just can't figure out what to eat. And the reason is that nutrition recommendations can be confusing. And if you listen to the news, this is good for you, now it's bad for you, now it's good for you again. Well, how is someone supposed to figure out what they're supposed to eat, right? And so that's where I put a lot of the emphasis on the physical activity. If you're active and you exercise, you can get away with a lot of sins on the diet side that you wouldn't otherwise, and it's something that's more controllable.
Yeah, but I found the more I exercise, the less I really want to eat. So it works that way, and it's easier said than done.
Yeah, and it takes a while.
Yes, and you have to commit to it.
That's right.
And get into the habit. And the habit takes, what, 2 weeks? Is that what they
Yeah, it depends. I think there's probably different stages. I think after a couple weeks, people find that new thing they're doing to come a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But I think to have it really integrated, you're looking at several months. And the people who are really good at it, like this is their new lifestyle, they still think about it and they still have to work at it even years later.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not the sort of thing that a couple weeks in, now suddenly you're fixed and you don't have to worry about it
Well, it's
anymore.
just like addicts, and
Yeah.
this is sort of an addictive type of thing that we're
It is.
talking about,
Yeah.
of eating too much
Yeah.
or not exercising.
Yeah.
And an addict, I was talking to a friend of mine who said that he moved from New York. He was addicted to the lifestyle,
Yeah.
and he has to think about it
Yeah.
all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Of
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't revert back to that.
Yeah.
And it was an addiction, and that wasn't
right.
to food, that wasn't to drugs.
Yeah.
It was a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And this is the same type thing.
Sure it is.
That you've got
Sure
to
it
get
is.
through it. But once you get it into your habit and you stick with it,
Yeah.
it becomes relatively easy.
It does.
Yes. All right. Well,
It is.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
As always,
Yeah.
it's a pleasure and interesting to talk about it. And it's brought to you by Family Pharmacy. We appreciate their sponsorship. We're going to take a break and we're going to talk about the theater when we come back on TalkBack Live.